Runnin' with the Devil, a rock and roll adventure. Part 31. I just stood there, racking my brain, trying to figure out how that was possible. I couldn't think of a way. I decided to address the issue with Bob, in a way that only he would appreciate. I opened the changing room door, walked out, then made my way through the double doors. There, I saw Bob, standing by the back door of the limo, just like I assumed he was. "It's about time, Mr. Hard Sell. I thought you got lost," he said. "No, Bob, but we do need to talk. Man to man. No bullshit. No games," I said, walking up to him. "I like you. I really do. Straightforward and to the point." "Of course, Mr. Hard Sell. Let's talk," Bob replied. "Over there, Bob," I said. "Very well," Bob replied. We then walked to the side of the building. "Okay, Bob, straight up. Are you, or are you not, doing exactly what I said you were doing in the hallway there? Yes or no?" Bob just looked at me funny. "No bullshit. No games, Bob," I said again. "Yes," he replied. "I knew it," I said loudly. "Then why didn't you just say that in the hallway?" I asked. "Because of Rebecca. She thinks I'm a good guy, not evil at all. I didn't want to break her heart, so to speak, and ruin her impression of me," he answered. "That makes sense," I thought. Bob then looked at me like I was stupid, and said again, "I like you. I really do. I just don't understand you." I already admitted what my plan was in the elevator. "Why are you so bothered by it now?" he asked. "Knowing it's going to happen, and seeing it happen, are two different things, Bob. But I don't give a shit about that now. I figured out why the band, the techs, the crew, and the employees, as well as Tony, Edgar, and Rebecca, were not affected," I said. "Really? How is that?" Bob asked. "Earmuffs. The techs, the crew, and the employees were all wearing earmuffs, and couldn't hear the messages. The band, including myself, and Tony, are part of your plan. Edgar is a demon, and Rebecca is a succubus. That's why we weren't affected," I answered. "Well, aren't you the smart one?" Bob said in return. "But the only one I can't figure out is Donna. She wasn't wearing earmuffs, and I just met her yesterday. So, I'll make you a deal, Bob," I began. "I thought you didn't want to make any deals, Mr. Hard Sell," Bob stated. "Yeah, well, things change, Bob," I replied. "If you tell me why, and or how, Donna was not affected by your little box thing, I will never again question, nor confront you, about your ultimate plan." Again, I used air quotes when I said ultimate plan. I then continued, "I will go along with it, like it's not even happening. Take as many souls as your evil little heart desires. I know you don't have a heart, but you know what I mean. You win." "Oh, Mr. Hard Sell. It does not have to be like that. I actually enjoy those little confrontations with you. They amuse me," Bob replied. "You were going to rip my face off, and kill me, just 30 minutes ago, after I confronted you. It didn't seem like you were too amused by it then," I said. "I was not going to injure you, my dear boy, for confronting me. I was simply going to make you understand that I meant what I said about speaking to me in that tone. Besides, I did what I did, not because of the confrontation, but because of the fact that you disrespected me by swearing at me for the umpteenth time, and invading my personal space. I have never disrespected you, fucked with you, yes, but never disrespected you, and saved your ass on multiple occasions. One can have an argument, or a confrontation, and still be respectful. You humans don't seem to understand that, so I was going to make you understand," Bob said, like a father to a son. "Yeah, sorry about that, Bob," I said. "No worries, my dear boy," he replied. "I do not believe I am saying this, but there is no need for a deal. I will tell you honestly. Part of my plan was to keep all 6 of you. Yes, I said 6. Tony makes 6, as happy as I possibly could, so you would not pay attention to what I was doing. It has worked out well with everyone, except you. Besides being on stage, and performing, the only thing that has ever made you happy was Coffee and Donna. So, when you asked if Donna could stay, I knew she made you truly happy. She was not affected because once that happened, she too became part of my plan. It's as simple as that," Bob said. "Oh, I thought you were going to say that she's some kind of demon or something like that," I replied. "I told you before, I would not waste my demons on such frivolous things. So, are we good, Mr. Hard Sell?" Bob asked. "Yeah, Bob, we're good," I answered. Bob then clapped his hands together once, and put his left hand on my shoulder. "Let's head back to the limo, we have a long drive ahead of us," he said. I agreed, and we walked back over Bob opened the door for me, I got in, then Bob got in, shutting the door behind him. He then knocked on the mirror once again, and the limo pulled away. "Is everything okay, babe?" Donna asked me. "It is now," I replied, and gave her a kiss. Derek, Corey, Ricky, and Steven were again indulging themselves in the incentives. Edgar and Rebecca found 2 straws somewhere, put them in a beer, and were drinking the beer through the straws, and laughing. Those 2 are so weird, I thought. But the good kind of weird, you know. Tony had a bottle of water, and was just chilling out. I made a cup of coffee for myself. Donna didn't want one, and she soon fell asleep, with her head on my shoulder. Now, if you've been listening to me tell this story, from the very beginning, you've probably been listening to me babble for about 7 hours now, give or take. I told you I was big on details. So, to make an even longer story short, I'll just give you the Reader's Digest version of what happened from this point. If you don't know what the Reader's Digest version is, again, you're probably too young to appreciate this story. Anyway, we drove for about an hour, got a motel room, slept for about 5 hours, well some of us did, got up the next morning, did some autograph signings and sightseeing, before performing the show that night, and Bob doing his thing afterwards. The same sequence of events, carried on throughout the entire 8-month tour. Pull into town, after the show, get a motel for as long as we needed, sleep, if needed, do record label related stuff during the day, or hang out, play the concert at night, Bob doing his thing right after, then party at the motel. If we were staying in town, or move on to the next town, if we were not. We had periodic days off. Since the only vehicle we had was the limo, we all hung out together, indulging in incentives, and checking out what each town had to offer. We did shows in Japan, obviously, as well as China, France, Poland, Norway, Finland, and even did one show in Turkey. The language barrier was rough to get around, but luckily Bob spoke many different languages, and translated everything that was said. Bob secured us a very lucrative merchandising deal with a popular Japanese t-shirt printing and distribution company. We soon began selling our band t-shirts at our concerts, certain reputable music shops in Japan, and surrounding countries, as well as in the States. Joey and Hank quit about halfway through the tour, and were replaced with 2 new guys. I never got their names. We met some fans, shook some hands, and took a lot of pictures. Derek, Corey, Ricky, Steven, and sometimes Tony, got to know a lot of our groupies, inside and out, during the tour. I was loyal to Donna. Then it was over. Rebecca, Edgar, and the old man, then went back to hell. Bob stayed with us for a while, until we got all the business we needed to take care of finished, then he left as well, saying he would return to get us, when it came time to record the next album. It was a sad day when Rebecca had to leave her bestie Donna, here in the real world. Donna was upset too, as she had become quite fond of Rebecca over the past few months. There were tears, as you may expect, hugs, kisses on the cheek, all that girly girl stuff. Again, no offense. When we got back to the States, Bob presented us with our endorsement contracts. We all signed them, and received the money, for which Bob graciously put in our Bank of Hades accounts. Thanks, Bob. Soon after depositing the endorsement money, Bob informed us of how much money each one of us had, including Tony. We were all millionaires. Since we were all listed as songwriters and music writers, we all received the same amount of money. If you remember, Edgar played keyboards on the first album, as well as the second album. But since he did not sign a contract, he received no financial gain from it. To make up for that, Bob did promote him to lead intake officer. He was in charge of making sure that everyone that goes to hell belonged there, when he wasn't running the soundboard or recording with the band. Tony's Subway deal paid him over $1 million to be their spokesperson for 1 year, human time. He filmed 5 commercials for them, while we were on a break. We took about 2 months off, and did some things with our money. We all bought houses and cars. I could have wanted mine, but I worked hard for that money, so I was definitely going to spend it. I tried convincing Bob to sell me the Wilhelm Estate property, but he refused, so Donna and I decided on a split-level house on the outskirts of town. She got a Corvette, and I got another red Mustang like I had before, complete with the flames on the side. Donna didn't get along with her stepdad, and her mother always sided with him, so she wasn't interested in helping either of them, and you know the deal with my parents, right? So they were out too. Ricky finished paying off the deed to B&B Music, so Mr. Bellington could take it easy and not have to work so much, as well as, bought him a brand new 1-story ranch-style house. The mobile home that they were staying in was old, rundown, and built in the 1950s, that's why Ricky didn't want me to see where he lived the night I dropped him off. Ricky got his driver's license, and bought a classic 1957 Chevy for himself, and a brand new Ford F-150 pickup truck for his pops. Steven made up with his parents, which seemed a little weird to me. Now that he has money, they're perfectly fine with him being dead. I think they saw dollar signs, and that was it. Anyway, he paid off their house, with the understanding that it was his when they passed. He stayed with them, bought them both new cars, and after getting his license renewed, bought a black Trans Am for himself, just like the one Burt Reynolds drove in the movie Smokey and the Bandit. Derek and Corey split the cost, and bought the old house on Chestnut Street that they were renting before all this happened. I don't know how they paid the bills before, since neither one of them had a job, but that's none of my business. They got a really good deal on the place, after the tenant after them killed herself in the living room. Plus, they kind of missed Johnny. Derek got his license renewed the same day as Ricky got his first license, and bought a 1969 Dodge Charger. Corey failed the driver's test the first time, when he went to renew his license, but after the second try, he finally passed, and bought a 1968 VW bus, like his parents owned in California. I guess once a hippie, always a hippie. But who am I to judge? You see, in the state, you have to take a driving test every time you renew your license, to make sure you still have good reflexes and eyesight. Tony agreed to let his ex-wife keep the house in the divorce, and didn't tell her about his account with Bob, or the Subway deal. Tony said that she testified in court, that she saw him in some sandwich commercial, her words, not mine, and that he must be hiding something. Her lawyer had copies of all 5 commercials, played them in court, and the judge sided with Tony, saying she saw no resemblance at all. After the divorce, he bought a nice little bungalow-styled house on Elm Street, as well as a 1975 Chevy Nova Sport. Bob showed back up after a while, and took us, including Tony and Donna, to Hell to record the next album. Donna was a little scared. I mean, it's Hell, so it's kind of understandable. But after I told her that where we were going was the business side of Hell, not the torture side, she felt a little bit better. It was a big coming home party when we arrived, as Rebecca and Edgar were waiting in the studio for us. Donna and Rebecca hugged, then sat on the couch, catching up with each other. We all felt a little more comfortable around Edgar this time around, and hugged and high-fived him in celebration. After a while of talking and catching up with each other, we began recording the album. In case you're wondering, the first album was self-titled. The album cover featured the picture of the band that we took when we first went into the studio, surrounded by flames. The second album we called Fire in the Hole, named after Bob's roller coaster. That album cover featured Rebecca, who suggested it, on her knees, sitting up, her tail behind her, out of view, surrounded by flames, quote unquote, completely naked, her legs spread, her mouth open, and her tongue slightly sticking out, with her hands covering her endowment, and a flame covering her. Well, you know, girl area. She wasn't really naked though. She wore a thong that covered her girl part, and a thin, strapless, string-like bikini top covering her, well, pointy parts. I'm trying to be respectful here. Anyway, Edgar was not happy about the whole ordeal, but after Rebecca had a little talk with him, he was okay with it, as long as she was covered when the picture was taken, and it just gave the illusion of her nakedness in the photo. He wouldn't allow anyone in the room when the picture was taken, and took the picture himself. She was positioned in front of the same green screen that we were. Our second album sold far more than our first album. Gee, I wonder why? Teenage hormones. That's why. The PMRC rallied to get us to change the album cover to something less sex-oriented, but since Hellfire Records was an independent label, and Bob was the owner, he refused. By Tipper. As in Tipper Gore. If you don't know who Tipper Gore is, never mind, I'm not saying it again. Anyway, we only recorded 8 songs that session, all of which were from my songbooks, except The Real Me, which I wrote one day while Donna was out shopping. Bob again wrote the music, just like last time. I got in contact with my old friend Ricky, who was still alive. He did not sell his soul like I previously thought. He just taught himself how to play guitar. Anyway, I invited him to come play on the album, which Bob and the rest of the guys, including Edgar, agreed to, and he accepted. Bob and I met him at his apartment, as by that time, he had moved out of his parents' house on base. Bob snapped his fingers and brought him and his guitar, the snakeskin Peavey, directly to the studio. He played the lead guitar part, and performed the solo on Love Is a Lie. Bob paid him handsomely for his contribution to the album. He met everyone, and we all sat around talking for a while, telling crazy stories of the things we did together when we were kids. Bob then sent him home. Edgar played keyboards once again, with Donna and Rebecca providing backup vocals on a couple of the tracks. It only took us 10 hours, hell time, to record the album, which equaled out to about 1 year, human time. Anyway, the 8 new songs, plus the 5 left over from the first session, gave the album 13 songs. Well, it actually had 14. We included a 2-minute accordion instrumental track, performed by Tony, as a hidden bonus track at the end of the album, for which he was given full credit. There's a 45-second gap between the end of the last song and Tony's instrumental, which he titled, Goodbye Stacy. It kind of rocked, to be honest. The track list is as follows. Tear It Down, Like a Knife in the Back, Second Fiddle, Coming for You, The Real Me, Rebecca's Song, Wolf in Sheep's Clothing, Rock You Tonight, Love Is a Lie, featuring Ricky Martz, Kiss of Death, The Loneliest Girl in the World, Out of the Ashes, I Just Want to Love You, Until the Angels Call You Home, Goodbye Stacy. The tour for the second album started 2 weeks, human time, before the album was even released, and was sponsored by the Philip Morris Company, you know, the makers of Marlboro cigarettes, and many other fine products. Anyway, this time we toured the States, all the major stadiums and arenas, as well as a few small clubs, from coast to coast, selling our new t-shirts at each concert, as well as the old ones. We had a 90-minute allotted time limit, this go around. Tony played the 15-minute intermission, while we rested up. The techs, and the crew, and the employees of each venue, all wore earmuffs, just like last time. We basically did the same sequence of events as we did on the first tour. We filmed 3 music videos, while on tour, for the songs Out of the Ashes, Rock You Tonight, and Coming for You. All did very well on MTV. At one point, Bob had arranged for us to be on the infamous Morton Downey Jr. show. You know, the 3-part episode entitled Rock and Metal, 1, 2, and 3, on the same day that we were doing a show at the Meadowlands Arena, since it's close to Secaucus, New Jersey, where the show was being filmed. Well, we did the taping, but due to time restrictions, our segment was cut, and did not air on TV. The producers were nice enough to give all 5 of us a copy of our segment on VHS. I still have mine somewhere. The tour lasted for an entire year, 12 months, which we all agreed to, since it went beyond the 8-month time limit that we agreed to at the contract signing. More shows, more money, right? And for Bob, more souls. We also all agreed to the extension of the second album, to 14 songs, since we were only contractually obligated to 10. Bob made us sign a permission slip, as he put it, for both the tour extension, and the album extension. I'm not sure of the legal name for it, but it said that we agreed to the extensions, and wouldn't sue him for breach of contract. The tour went off without too many problems, nothing major, some lighting problems, broken guitar strings, microphones going out, things like that. Bob's little box thing malfunctioned 7 times throughout the tour, and yes, I kept track. I thought it was hilarious. Bob, on the other hand, was pissed. I wish I was a fly on the wall for those conversations. By the time the tour ended, we were all completely exhausted, and ready for a break. Bob then informed us that we were all now multimillionaires. We took about 6 months off, which in retrospect was probably a bad idea. By the time we went back into the studio to record the third and last album, in order to fulfill our contract, the music industry, and fan interest, had changed. Bob said that record labels, as well as fans, except for a few diehards, were no longer interested in party, fun, good time types of bands from New York and LA, and were now focused on, oh poor pitiful me bands from Seattle. He also said that he would not be offering to renew our contract, and was releasing us from our current contract. I only had less than a year left to live, according to the timer on my arm, so it really didn't matter, and I don't really care if I offended anyone with my Seattle statement, because that change fucked up a whole bunch of good people's livelihoods. In an instant. Now, don't get me wrong, that era of music did offer some good bands, Nirvana, Stone Temple Pilots, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, just to name a few. A few bands from our era carried on, changed their style of playing, cut their hair, and tried to adjust to the change, but it really wasn't the same. Anyway, we only recorded 5 songs that session, no keyboards, no backing vocals, just us. White Wolf, Secrets in the Well, Fish out of water. The Rose. Hello goodbye. Bob said that there would be no tour, no videos, no endorsements, no merchandising, no press, nothing, just an album release. The mood for that session was a somber one, to say the least. Bob said he wanted to make our last album a double live album, with every song we recorded with him, prior to the third session, played live, in random order, with the 5 new studio songs we just recorded at the end, like Kisses Alive 2 was. We really didn't like the change, and neither did Bob, as he wasn't interested in looking elsewhere for new bands. He liked us, but he didn't want to waste the time and energy on making a big production, if no one was going to buy the album, or show up at the concerts. He did arrange for us to play at an empty stadium, in the middle of nowhere. I think it was abandoned, as the entire place was run down, parts of the seating area were ripped up, or missing altogether, and was graffiti-filled. The only people in the audience was Bob, Donna, Rebecca, Tony, the guys who set up the recorders, and the old man, who drove us to the stadium in the limo, all sitting in the front row, as well as some homeless people, who were apparently using the stadium as shelter. They popped up periodically throughout the show. Edgar, as always, was manning the soundboard. There was no box behind Steven's drum kit, no techs, no crew, no earmuffs. It was quite depressing, but we played like we were playing to a standing room-only audience, with Edgar's keyboard tracks piped in through the soundboard once again. If we were going out, we were going out our way. Tony did perform his instrumental at the end, and the girls did their backing vocals, when needed. Bob said he was going to have Edgar mix and cheering crowd sound effects in the studio. We decided to name the album, Buried Alive and Well, because basically the music industry had buried bands like us, almost overnight, and we were alive and well, at the top of our game, when they did it. So the title seemed fitting. The album cover featured just a simple black and white picture of us, performing on the abandoned stage. I never did figure out who took that picture though. Not even an eighth of the people that bought the first album, bought the live album. Okay, now back to me telling the story. After leaving the stadium, with our rock star status quickly dying on that abandoned stage floor, it was a quiet ride home. No one said a word. We just sat there. No incentives. No laughing. Nothing. Bob then broke the silence. Boys, please, do not be like this. It saddens me too, but it was a fun ride while it lasted. You have made a lot of good music, and a serious amount of money, he said consolingly. Yeah, that's great and all, Bob. But in 20 years, no one will remember who we are. We'll be nobodies again, Derek responded. I will remember you. Edgar and Rebecca will remember you, Bob replied, trying to make us feel better. Edgar and Rebecca both then nodded their heads. Yeah, I will, Rebecca said. I'll never forget you guys, Edgar said. Me either, said Tony. It's not the same, man, Derek replied, frustrated. Bob then looked around at all the unused incentives. Mr. Brain. Ricky, would you like a beer? Bob asked. Ricky said nothing. Mr. Colley. Corey, would you like some weed? Bob asked again, trying hard to cheer us up. He too said nothing. Coffee? Mr. Hard. Mikey, I'll make it fresh, Bob asked. I just shook my head, and softly replied, no. Bob then sighed heavily, and sat back in his chair. We rode on in complete silence once again. After a while, Donna spoke up, and said, I need some air, babe. Good idea, Bob stated smiling. A little fresh air never hurt anyone. Donna then reached up and hit the button to open the sunroof. The sunroof then opened. I always wanted to do this, she said, trying to make me smile, as she put her left foot on the seat, and hoisted herself up, so that her head and upper torso were sticking out of the opening. As soon as she did, she screamed, not a yeah, I'm having a good time scream. No. It was a terrified, blood-curdling, oh shit kind of scream, then fell back onto my lap, just as a loud air horn was heard, as the old man hit the brakes, and turned the wheel to the right. The sound of screeching tires filled the air. A hard impact was felt on the front driver's side of the limo, causing it to spin, slamming us all into one another, against the back passenger side. Broken glass flying everywhere. I felt my head hit the corner of one of the speaker boxes, then everything went black. Again.